There we go. Welcome back, everyone, to day 2. I am so happy you're here. As you're popping in, I'd love to hear in the chat really quick. Were you here on day 1, or is this your first day here? Let me know. I want to know how many people are returning from day 1 and how many people are just here, this is their first day joining us. On day 1, I want to just do a quick little summary of what we covered. We talked a lot about your challenge being a portal. And so for a lot of people, this can kind of turn some experiences around, turn things on head a little bit, and just create just some cause for reflection. So I'd love to hear if anyone wants to share in the chat. What were some of the insights that really hit you, whether it was yesterday or whether it was in your reflection? How are things landing and integrating as we really dove into looking at our challenge, looking at some of the challenges we're having, and how it might reflect a little bit with maybe our ruling number, maybe the 8 energy. Love it. Okay, yay. You guys are saying in the chat here from day 1. It's my second day, first day. Wonderful. Missed day 1, but caught the replay. Yay. Yeah, I'm sending out the replays. If you guys are getting my emails, that's wonderful. If you're not getting my emails and you want to, let me know. I'm also getting some of you guys sending in your bingo cards already. So we've already got some names in the draw. Every line you get on your bingo card gets you entered to win. And right now, everybody who's entered will win a prize because I have more prizes than entries. So your odds are really good. Just a really fun way to have some fun together, right? Okay, I'm looking at your insights here. I was here for day 1. Yeah, totally cool. At 22.4, interesting. I love that. Yes, my challenge that's a portal is creativity for abundance. So good. I am a 2 + 9, 11. And I'm finding it better that the blocks for 9 fit me better. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's a good question. Sometimes you're going to look through the information I've shared, and you might find that you resonate more with a number that's not your ruling number. And usually I find that when that happens, it's because you're either in that season right now, you're in that personal year number right now, or that number features prominently elsewhere in your chart. If you want an in-depth reading, you can absolutely get that. And then you can get a sense of where that number is showing up and why. But you can also just look at it and be like, this feels relevant to me right now. And you get to decide that and you get to work on that specific energy. You can submit your bingo cards as you go along, or you can submit them all to me on Thursday or Friday morning. I'm going to do the draw on Friday afternoon. Oh, when it's hard to commit, it's perhaps because you don't trust yourself. This is a big lesson for so many of us. And this is a common 7 energy theme. 2023 was a 7 energy year. So this was a big lesson for a lot of us throughout the last year or so, or if you have a 7 dominant somewhere in your chart, that this idea of if I'm unable to move forward, what is my relationship with trusting myself, trusting my own intuition, trusting my own inner guidance system? So this was a really powerful lesson in 2023, and hopefully we're seeing it so that we can kind of integrate it and make some progress on it, right? Really powerful. Okay. Yay. Let's get into what I want to talk about for today. So we've already talked about the challenges piece. I want you now to take a look at your workbooks if you have them handy. I'm going to do a screen share here so you can see. And let's take a look at some of the opportunities or the gifts associated with our ruling number. Okay. So referring to your ruling number, I want you to kind of flip through and look at what are some of the gifts, some of the opportunities associated with it. We already talked a little bit yesterday about how when you're working with a specific challenge, you can invert it or look at it as the flip or look at it as the inverse, right? And I'm kind of curious if the challenge you identified and the inverse of it relates to some of the opportunities that you can experience with your ruling number. So if anyone feels like they want to share, you can either pop it in the chat or feel free to unmute. When you look at the opportunities associated with your ruling number, how does that feel? How does that fit? How does that land in your being? Someone just mentioned 9, so maybe I'll scroll down to 9 so we can look at that together. I know for me, when I first looked at some of the traits associated with the seven, which is my ruling number, I was like, is that possible? Could that actually be me? And I wanted it to be true, but I didn't necessarily feel it was true. Has anybody felt that way looking at some of the gifts associated with their ruling number? Yeah. And I think it's really important to sit with that. I remember the first time someone referenced my intuition, I was like, no, that's not me. But I wanted it to be me so badly, I couldn't ignore it. Like it kept coming up over and over again in different places in my life. And I was like, well, I'm just going to research it. I'm just going to study it. I'm just going to try to make sense of it. Yeah. So when you're looking at the strengths associated with your ruling number, what I invite you to do is scan through and pick one. Pick one that you either feel is true for you or that you wish was true for you, that you're going to use as part of your alchemy mantra, because that's what we're going to create today is our alchemy mantra. And when you're working with navigating through a challenge into an opportunity, it's really important to understand, like we talked about yesterday, you've got the challenge side and the flip is the opportunity. Tina is saying both of my numbers resonate now more than they did a year ago when I started the journey. It takes time. Absolutely. Yeah, it does take time. And I think, why? Why does it take time? I think because often our truth gets buried under years and years of expectations, and this is what you should do, and this is what you're supposed to do, and this is what you're taught to do. And so that can just kind of, yeah, it can kind of bury some of that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. With the nine, yeah, in the past, struggling with wanting people to be their highest potential. That's such an interesting one, right? When you have the gift of seeing people's potential, which shows up in a few different of the energies, and you see their potential and you see what's possible, but yet that's not actually the life they're choosing. That's a tricky place to be in sometimes. Okay, so once you've identified the one that you want to work on, we're going to build a mantra together. And this is going to be the tool that we use to activate alchemy, right? So I want you can use this worksheet here. Let me get a better view maybe, to create your mantra. So I want you to look at this part right here. What are the challenges that you're experiencing? And you can look at two different things, right? And you can choose either pick a challenge from your ruling number description, or you can pick one of the challenges that you identified yesterday that you're working on transmuting, right? So some of you mentioned things around like scarcity and, financial challenges. Some of you referenced things around like, being unable to focus or feeling a lack of like drive and ambition. Some of you mentioned, feeling unsatisfied in different jobs or relationships and things like that. And so identify the challenge and put it down in this first square, or if you're just writing it down on your page. And then under the opportunity section, there's two places you can look again. Either look in the description of your ruling number and pick the opportunity that you want to work on. So for me, it would have been like strengthening my intuition. And then, or the other thing is to look at the flip, like we talked about yesterday. Oops. And then once you have those down, does anyone feel like they want to share theirs in the chat with me? I feel like I should maybe be doing one too. Like, why not, right? How are we doing? Do we have a statement? I'm gonna go back and look at I wrote down for number 7. That's totally fine. If you have to pop in and out, I completely understand. Yeah. Ooh. Okay. Then once you have, oh gosh, don't look if that makes you dizzy. Once you have the challenge and then once you have the opportunity, then you can build your mantra. Okay. So working with your mantra, you would say something along the lines of, you can craft this to work for you, but as a ruling number 7, I practice grace when I experience the feeling of being caught between worlds, and I lean into my natural gift of living life as a karmic blessing, or strengthened intuition, or a strong sense of connection. Yes, absolutely. So, yesterday we identified a challenge that we're experiencing, or we picked a challenge out of the description in the, like up here. So what's your ruling number, Mary? We can use yours as an example if you want. 11. Okay, perfect. So here, so you have 2 choices. Number 1, you can pick a challenge that you're currently facing in life, or you can reference one of the challenges here. Okay. So maybe you might reference expectations or, whatever, right? I feel like one of the things with the 11s is they have high expectations, and they also have this like very strong connection with spirit. And so that can sometimes feel like a distancing, right? But you're going to need to feel into that for you, which one hits. They're also, the challenges 11s can also face is the black and white thinking or divisive thinking, like taking the moral high ground. 11s are great at that. Getting defensive. Okay, beautiful. Perfect. So everyone following along, I hope you guys are with me. I'm like, you guys aren't quite as chatty as you were yesterday. So if I'm losing anyone, definitely comment. Yes, Sharon, great question. We do look at a single digit unless you end up with 10 or 11, then we keep it. If you have 12, we would put that together to be 3. So the single digits that we keep are 2 up through 11. I do not look at ruling number 1s. To me, ruling number 1 is kind of an incomplete energy for person. You'll look at it through other lenses, yes. But for a person, I would look at it as a 10, because 10s are the innovators. Okay. So getting defensive, difficulty trusting others. Yeah. Beautiful. Okay, so then the next place we're going to look is we're going to look at the 11 as the strengths. Okay, so getting defensive, difficulty trusting others is the challenge. And then what's the strength? Being a natural leader, supporting others, highly intuitive, strong visionary qualities, spiritual leadership. When you're connected to spirit, having a very strong sense of purpose and confidence. Those are things you wish you had. Absolutely. Those are things that are in your code. This is a great question to ask. If it's in my code, why isn't it natural to me? If it's in my code, why isn't it my truth? Right. And this is the thing, right? Life will challenge us in so many different ways, or, we were raised with certain conditions, or, certain teachers or society expectations on us, where we start to think the way I am naturally isn't quite right. I should be more like this and less like that. Right. And this is something I talked a little bit about yesterday, but I usually talk about it even more, of identifying your not enough story or your too much story, right? So we all carry some version of a story of, like, for me, it was, I'm too sensitive, I'm too talkative, right? And I'm not, like, I was rewarded for being analytical. So I was conditioned to try to be more analytical. And that actually worked really well, because I actually became quite analytical. but it was an area of my life where it drained me. It didn't add energy. It took energy away. Okay. So whenever you start to think of this not enough, too much story, it's often because that skill that you've either identified as not enough or too much is actually part of your essence. It's part of your core code. And for whatever reason, it wasn't honored in us. And because of that, we never became masterful with using it. My intuition was never something that anyone ever mirrored back to me was a good trait to have. So I ignored it. In fact, there was lots of times where it was, dismissed, like, don't be so sensitive, right? So I was like, oh, right, like, let me try not to do that, not realizing that by ignoring my sensitivity, I was also ignoring my intuition. And so oftentimes we do that, right? The piece that makes us unique and powerful and potent and is an essence of our code, we disconnect, we disassociate, we step away from it until we're able to reclaim that. And part of developing this process of alchemy codes is part of that reclamation. And if there's any part of you that listens to that, who's like, I wish I was this, I wish I was that visionary leader, I wish I felt a strong connection to spirit, then that is you. The only thing you need to qualify you to having that is the desire. That is the qualification, right? That is the qualification. And so you get to choose that. Like I got to choose, like, oh, if I really wished I was intuitive, like, can I not just choose that? I'll study that. I'll lean into that. I'll explore that. And it took me, years. I'm not saying it was an instantaneous process by any stretch of the imagination. It took me years, but I became very masterful with it. It became a natural piece of who I am. And not only is it natural and embodied now, it fuels me. So unlike the analytical part of me, which I can do, but I get tired and I lose energy from it, the pieces that are part of my code give me energy, give me life, right? So if there's something in your description and you're like, I wish it, let yourself claim it. Like be like, yeah, okay, I am going to step into seeing myself as a visionary leader. And I'm not saying like it's like as I said, it's not an instantaneous process, but you might start with the question of, am I willing to see myself in that light? Would it be possible for me to give myself permission to explore this area of my life, right? This is where I love EFT tapping because I think those statements are really powerful. Like, let me give myself permission to explore this side of myself, right? I give myself permission to get curious about what aspects of this I would like to understand more and choose to embody more over time, right? And then being willing to explore that. We have this idea that if something isn't instantaneous and whatever appears perfectly natural, that means it's not right and true. And while there's certainly something to be said by welcoming an ease into your life, I'm not going to argue that point, but I would say the things that give me the most fulfillment are not the ones that were the easiest. Does anyone else notice that? The thing that gives me the most fulfillment is the stuff that I was like relentless on because it felt so important to me. I wasn't willing to let it go. And now when I get to experience it or feel the embodiment of it, it's so fulfilling. It means so much to me, right? Okay. Patty's talking about the 4, a natural leader, and I do take the weight of the world on my shoulders. Absolutely. Looking after everyone else first. That's a very classic 4 energy trait. And then what happens is like you carry the burden, you carry the burden, you carry the weight. And then if you're not able to manage your own experience within that, there'll often be like an emotional outburst because you lost it. Like, no kidding. Like the burden was too much to carry. Right. And so one of the things about like people will often tell ruling number 4s, oh, you're so, you're such a natural rock. You're so reliable. I can always depend on you. And so they get their validation from being reliable and dependable, sturdy, trustworthy, structured. And then they are like, oh, I must be all of that then. So then they carry it until it becomes a burden that's too big to carry, neglecting their own experience in the process. And that's just the learning curve. That's just how we figure out, well, what is my capacity? How do I fill my own cup? What is the appropriate level of burden for me to carry? What's my responsibility? What's not my responsibility? That's a big lesson for fours, is like, what's your job? What's my job? We only learn that through feeling our way through it and experimenting with it, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm just reading through your comments here. So much of this is an unlearning of the expectations that were placed upon us, right? So much of it's an unlearning of that and a choosing to be like, let me experiment with what's true for me, which is why I think, that hit home yesterday. We were talking about like, what if I let myself play in the archetype of letting people down? What if I let myself play in the archetype of disappointing others? Like, what is the worst that could happen if I didn't do that? If I didn't do what was expected to me? Like, what would be the worst that would happen? I think it's important to play in that archetype, because if we don't ever give ourselves permission to explore what that even looks like, how do we know if our own needs are getting honored? Right? Yeah. Okay, I'm reading the 8 one now. I get overwhelmed with emotions and hold them in and shut down. Yeah, I disconnect from myself and stop tapping into my intuition. I need to know and accept the things I know. Yes. Yeah, and own your gifts and your truth. It all starts with this awareness. It all starts with this awareness. It starts with the awareness of like, oh, I see this about myself now, and this is what I'm going to choose going forward, right? So first the awareness, and then that acceptance piece of like, what am I going to choose going forward? Ooh, Sharon, you created some beautiful mantras here. Okay, as a 9, I practice grace when I experience overgiving of myself. I gracefully center into my gift as a light and sound healer and a creative. I allow space for boundaries of my self-love so that I may expand into my gifts from a whole place. Sharon, this is stunning. Can we all just like acknowledge the beauty of how well crafted your mantra is? So I love this. Put it somewhere easily accessible where you can access it whenever you want, so that you can work with this energy. The next time you experience overgiving of yourself or not feeling enough or any of those challenges, you call on this as like an activation, as an enchantment, as a initiation, right? To call in this idea of centering into your gifts, to creating space for boundaries for yourself, right? It's so powerful. Yes, I love this. Okay, Ravina, as a ruling number 3, I practice grace when I experience getting stuck in my head, and I lean into my natural gift of abundance coming easily to me and sharing with what I have with those I love. Oh, Ravina, what a beautiful energy for someone who does bookkeeping. I'm like, yes, please. I want my bookkeeper to be coded naturally with abundance. I think that's so powerful and so beautiful. Yeah, it is hard to let people down. I feel bad. This is one of those things that I think we need to explore, right? Because this is this idea of like, why have I decided it's okay to let myself down? Like, where does that come in? And why are my needs last? So really like giving yourself time and permission to explore where your needs fit, why it's okay for somebody else to have their needs met and not yours met, why it's okay for you to be the one that's let down, but not other people let down, and just really start to explore and ask yourself some of these questions. Really powerful. Okay. Is anyone else? Ooh, Sharon, what a great question. Are you letting them down or carrying their lessons for them? Is it possible for you to let them carry their own lesson? Exactly. This is the thing, we learn that we get like love, significance, and approval from the world around us when we do certain things. And so our brains get coded with, if I carry this for someone else, I'm loved. Well, and then what our brain thinks is, if I stop carrying this for someone else, I won't be loved, right? And our brain takes that on at the subconscious level. And so these programs become very deep and they become traps, right? They become like a chain that holds you in a circumstance that you don't want to be in at the conscious level, but subconsciously you've created and chosen, right? And so really starting to explore that, right? Absolutely. Really starting to explore that. Like what this is, you talked about this yesterday a little bit, like, but what would be the worst that would happen? What would be the worst that would happen if I let somebody else down and instead honored what I needed to have, experience, feel, do, right? What would be the worst that would happen? And it's a lesson to be learned for many people, for sure. And I mean, everyone's experience, that's going to be different. But the craziest thing that I've noticed when I started to play with this energy is that the perception of having let that person down was a story in my own head. When I was open and clear with my communication, that actually benefited the person more than me pretending to be fine with something and secretly harboring a level of resentment. Right? That doesn't serve them. That does not serve the other person. Yeah. Yes. And these are lessons. These are deep, deep lessons for sure. I was the good child. So my mom didn't really do much with me. She said, "You're the good child, so I didn't pay attention to you." She apologized. Yeah. But she still leans on me big time. And does not like it when I set boundaries. Absolutely. Well, they're lifelong patterns for sure. Yeah. But the guilt game, for anyone who tends to feel guilt, the guilt game is like, it requires you to play along, right? It requires my agreement, right? And I'm not saying it's easy. I experience mom guilt on a fairly regular basis, but the mom guilt requires that I agree with the expectation that's led me to feel guilty, which I don't agree with. So if I don't agree with it, why the heck am I feeling guilty? Why? Right? Okay, let's look at Lisa's. I love this. As a ruling number 5, I practice grace when I experience challenges in developing my intuition and spirituality. And I lean into my natural gift of a truth seeker to seek deeper meaning of my life and my purpose. Oh, Lisa, full body chills. If you approach the challenges you experience with this mantra, feeling it in your bones, this will completely transform your life. Completely transform your life. The only thing that will stop that transformation from happening is us not being willing to feel the profoundness of these statements. So when you say them, don't say them flippantly. Like, feel them, say them a few times and like feel them landing into your body, into your beingness, right? There's so much energy in that. I always expected abundance of money, of joy, of peace, and worked hard for it and burned myself out. I learned 6 months ago to put myself first, and it's been getting better now. And my number 3 makes sense. Yes, absolutely. Number 3s are so naturally good at manifesting that they don't sometimes realize how easy it can be. And then sometimes they inadvertently take the long path or the heavy path or the hard path, right? Yeah. And we don't even realize we're doing it until we do, right? And our awareness can really shift things. Thank you so much for being here. If you have to run, that's all good. Okay. Does everyone on the call have their mantra statement put together now? Okay. So here's the fill in the blank, like Mad Lib style, as a ruling number, whatever. I practice grace when I experience the challenge. You can name a challenge you're currently experiencing in life, right? Difficulty with the children, struggling in finance, whatever. And I lean into my natural gift of, and then pick one of the natural gifts associated with your ruling number. Oh, Ainsley, I love this. As a 5, I've been suppressing my feelings for far too long. 5s are so deeply compassionate. They can feel the energy from everybody else. They are right in the middle of everything. They can sense and feel things very deeply. So yeah, absolutely. When that becomes too much for other people, we think we're supposed to suppress, make them wrong, hide them, whatever, right? So I've been suppressing my feelings for far too long. They were too much for my parents, therefore too much for me and everyone. And I started to learn what these feelings are and how to name them, what they feel like in my body. It's a foreign language. Absolutely. And this is, I think, one of the reasons why I love this so much is because it gives language to both the difficult traits and the opportunities that come with it. With every challenge, there's an opportunity, right? With every difficulty you're going through, it is like some form of resistance training, of going to the gym, lifting weights, of something that is strengthening you and preparing you for something. So let me, rather than like harboring and obsessing about the challenge, let me be like, okay, the challenge is here. I'm not going to pretend it's not. Okay. We're not going to like bypass stuff. The reality is what the reality is. And I have a strength. I have a superpower. I have something available to me. So let me pull that in and see how working with that in the challenge will actually create alchemy, transmute things, shift things, open doorways I could not see before, right? And this is one of the things that I think is so powerful is as soon as we're able to shift the frequency of our thought patterns and our experiences through understanding the energy, we see doors that we could not see before. The door might have been there, but I just didn't have the eyes to see it. If I didn't have the eyes to see it, it might as well not have existed for me, right? I need to have the eyes to see the opportunity. And that comes with this level of awareness. Okay. I'm going to take a look at some of these other ones. As a ruling 4, I practice grace when I experience feelings of overwhelm and impatience. And I lean into my natural gift of sharing my heart through writing and speaking. Beautiful. I love that. Super powerful. As a ruling 3, I practice grace when I experience overthinking and lean into my natural gift to clearly articulate my needs and desires. Oh, so good. Can you guys see how in every single one, there is this shift from powerless to powerful? You guys see this? There's a lot of power in being willing to reclaim some of these strengths that may have been lost or hidden for a while. Okay, I missed the one that Renee sent. So let me see if I can find Renee's in here. I don't know, Renee. I can't see it. You'll have to resend it. It's gone. Okay. Let's see. Patty's, as a ruling 4, I experience grace when I experience the challenge of feeling guilt when I can't help everyone. Okay. Can we not just see what a beautiful place that comes from? Patty's help, like desire to help everyone. Of course, that's a beautiful intention and a beautiful desire, right? And that I have to help everyone by placing myself last is where the trick comes in. That is where we get tripped up. And I lean into my natural gift of being a leader, and I will teach them that they can empower themselves in their own healing. Patty, this is amazing. This has the capacity to shift intergenerational patterns in your family. This completely has the capacity to heal family lines, right? Because by you doing this and reclaiming your power, you're giving permission for other people in your life to do that as well. You're giving them permission to find that power within themselves, right? By modeling it. I think that's amazing. As a ruling 10, I practice grace when I experience financial challenges and burnout, and I lean into my natural gift of curiosity and thirst of knowledge for growth, the wisdom of why it's there and what is teaching me to alchemize it. Oh, Christina, I love this. It's good and fine to be in the challenge and feel it. Like, feel your feelings. Feelings are for feeling. And once you've had some time feeling them, like, I love this curiosity, knowledge, wisdom, what's being alchemized. If we truly believe that things are unfolding for us, which is the core belief system I hold, right? If things are happening for me, then any challenge I face is there to present an opportunity to me. Okay, this is like a game. It's almost like, what are those things called? The exit rooms, escape rooms. Is that what we call them? Escape rooms, where it's like, okay, let's find the clue. Let's find the key. Let's like figure our way through this, right? These mantras are amazing. As ruling number 10, I practice grace when I experience self-doubt. And I lean into my natural gift of confidence, growth, and the ability to push myself to new limits. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. The only reason a 10 would doubt themselves is because they think they have to follow a well-worn path. 10s are here to carve a new path for us. So this is amazing. Pushing yourself to new limits and embodying the confidence required to do so is just exactly what you're here for. How do I listen to my intuition and how do I trust myself? Those are the $1,000,000 questions, are they not? The $1,000,000 questions. But the answer is simple. The answer is simple, which is to practice. It's just a practice. And we can start with the easy things. We can start with the baby step things. We don't have to start with like massive, big life decisions. But like, what if I use my body as a pendulum to choose what I'm going to eat for dinner tonight? What if I put my hand on my heart and felt into it just to decide, am I going to go to the gym or go for a walk? Or am I going to stay home this weekend and have a quiet weekend to myself? Or am I going to book a social evening with some friends? Right? Let me use my intuition to make those decisions. Not, oh, I haven't seen my friends in a while, so I should go and visit them. That is not making the decision for my intuition, right? Dropping in, hand on the heart, hand on the belly. We teach a lot of how to work with these types of decision processes in practical numerology certification so that you can empower yourself to make decisions in that way. But the first question is like, just give yourself permission to try it with an experiment and practice. The feedback loop is the next thing. So when I do listen to my intuition and I take action, what happens next? What do I notice? What do I feel? What do I experience as a result? Right? Yeah. If you have been spending time, like how many years have we shut off the tap to our intuition? And now we think, oh, I'm going to turn it on and it's going to work today. It might not. It might take some practice. It might take some relearning. Yeah. And if you feel that, if you feel like I wasn't allowed to feel and I wasn't allowed to express, step one is in giving yourself permission to do that and taking the time. Like some people are like, oh, I feel la la la, and they know the answer instantly. If you don't, that's okay. Sit with it as long as you need to and practice being like, ooh, okay, I'm feeling something. I'm going to sit with it until I can actually articulate what it is. And it's okay if it takes time. Like, let that be part of your practice. And ruling number 6, I practice grace when I experience overcommitment. Oh, my Lord. Yes, please. Apparently, I'm learning some 6 lessons right now. And I lean into my natural gift of channeling the energy of love into the world. Oh, to change the world in a gentle way. This is why I call 6s the cozy warm blanket. It is such beautiful energy. I love this. This is so beautiful, you guys. As a ruling 11, I practice grace when I experience a flow of ideas, and I lean into my natural gift of spiritual connection to intuition. Strength, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, this is so beautiful. I make decisions when challenged. I lose my confidence. Yes. Okay. This is so good. These are all practices. I love it. I'm loving reading your guys' examples. Okay. As a ruling number 8, I practice grace when I feel insecure by recalling and cultivating my infinite capacity for inner strength. Carrie, that is divine, absolutely divine. So I want to talk a little bit. What we've done today so far to this point in alchemy codes is we've been using numerology to activate our truth, to understand how our energy works, to understand better what our challenges might be, what some of our, trip ups or sabotages might be, and what our gifts are, what our strengths are, what our potentials are, what's possible for us. And in doing so, it actually can activate your intuition on a deeper level. So that's what we've been walking through so far, obviously in like an hour and 40 minutes of classes. So if this is something you want to take deeper, you can do so in a couple of different ways. Number one, you can continue to practice this on your own with a practice, right? That will absolutely help you to do that. Number two, if you want to understand deeper through some teachings, I'd be happy to invite you into the practical numerology certification. The certification itself is for people who want to understand numerology because they really want to go deep with it. They're not just looking to kind of surface level it. They're using it in a couple of different ways. Number one, they're using it to understand people and how energy works. So we've barely scratched the surface by looking at one code, right? I'm going to stop my screen share for a minute. We've barely scratched the surface by just looking at one code, right? There is so many deeper layers that we can get into with this. We can start to understand seasons, which is kind of like your own personal hero's journey and the energy that you flow through. You can also use it to understand your personal year, which is the cycles that you are moving through on any given year, your personal day, which is an aspect to the gifts you're here. I also talk about things like relationship readings, how to look at charts side by side and understand where they might experience opportunities together, where they might experience challenges together. Unpopular opinion, I'm not the numerologist to say these numbers are a bad match and these numbers are a good match. You will learn this very quickly about me, that I do not believe there's any good or bad combinations. I will say, though, that there are combinations that will highlight certain energies. And then you get to decide, do I like those energies or do I not like those energies? That's a values-based question. It's not for me or anyone else to judge it as good or bad, right? So you can look at soul agreements in that way as to why people are coming together. Personally, love interest, professionally, these are all things we walk through. You can also look at what I call forecasting, which is probably my favorite part at this point. Not that I don't love this other stuff, I do. But once you have this as a solid foundation, the next step is, how am I moving over time and space? What's coming for me and how am I going to work and co-create with the energy that's coming my way? How do I actively choose to engage with it in a powerful way versus just like letting it flow by me? The door will continue to circle by. It's never gone. The opportunities are never gone. You've never missed the boat. There's always more boats coming. But if I know the boat's coming, let me ready myself. If I know the boat's coming, I'm going to do something to get on it if that's where I want to go, right? So that's how forecasting works. And then the other piece, of course, is seeing and interpreting the messages you're receiving from the universe and from spirit through number patterns. There's a few ways that people are using this when they integrate it. Number one, you can literally become a professional numerologist and share this work with clients doing numerology readings. The thing I love so much about numerology, at least the way I teach it, is it's very grounded in practicality. Like all of this stuff is doable and usable. It's not complicated. It's not like you need some fancy, crazy chart, whatever, software, whatever. These formulas I'm teaching in the practical numerology certification, you can have them all in your heart within a couple of weeks. It's not that complicated, but it's so powerful. It lets you do numerology on the fly. Like I've done full charts for people on airplanes and restaurants and all kinds of places. I think where I most love to see people integrating it, though, is anybody who's working with other people, anybody who relationships are critical in your life, personal or professional, right? You can use this to ensure the people you're collaborating with, whether it's a client or a colleague, feel seen, heard, and understood. And when you do that, that literally changes everything. Most people's challenges stem from either expectation, obligation, resentment. I should do this. I don't want to do that. You expect this of me. I'm not good at that. That is me. This is not me, right? Those miscommunications that are really about understanding, well, what is my nature? And like, what if I let myself be truly who I am and let you be truly who you are so we can both shine in our own natural essence, right? And this is where I think it's a secret weapon for coaches, for healers, for energy workers, for anybody who is guiding someone through a process, whether you're a teacher, a facilitator, anything like that. Because if you understand how the energy works of the people who are you're working with, You can customize it. You can make this teaching make sense for how their energy runs. And even when you're teaching to a group of people like I am today, I had someone DM me after yesterday's call and they're like, how do you structure your teachings? Like when I'm structuring talks or lessons or whatever, it's like, well, I understand the different energy planes. So I really try to make sense that I'm going to speak to each one of the energy planes at various points in my presentations so that you can feel it, receive it, and experience it, which allows you to feel more engaged. The more engaged you are, the more you're going to learn. So if you feel like these skill sets would be helpful in your work, in your life, or if you want to learn it for the fun of learning it, like we've had some amazing personal transformations occur. Tina shared her example the other day of when she worked with her children who were both neurodiverse and helped understand their codes. It completely reframed some of the negative connotations that had been taken on because of their diagnosis. And she started to see the gifts that they carried through understanding what their unique codes were and honoring that in them versus like the problem label of it, right? And seeing it as a gift and seeing it as a strength. So that was incredibly powerful. My three children, I parent them completely different, understanding their codes, but also in work as a business coach, when I'm guiding a client through a sales strategy, through a marketing plan, through crafting emails, through creating offers, through creating programs, when I'm coaching them through that, I take into account their codes. You cannot build the business exactly the same way I did if I'm a 7 and you're a different number, right? You need to take into account how your energy works, and that flows into it. So, practical numerology certification, if this feels like a fit, I would love to invite you to join. I want to let you know that if you want to do something like that, I will be doing private numerology readings for everyone who joins, because I want you guys to start off understanding your own energy and how you can use this, right? So we can talk a little bit about that in our call as well. My foundation and principles in teaching this is that I'm going to give you structure, and then I'm going to teach you how to strengthen your own intuition so you can feel the numbers yourself. You can apply them yourself. I also have, as a bonus, business boot camp, which is a 5-day business training that we'll do at the end to give you the business tools and skills that you need to kind of integrate that into business. I know I've got a couple of people here sharing who've done it already, who've done my practical numerology certification. I think Anne Marie's here. I know Carrie's here. I think there's a few other people. I know Tina had top on the call, but Anne Marie, do you want to share a little bit about how you've used PNC in your business?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. So numerology came into my world in this like really odd way. I had declared to another friend that I was going to get hyper clear on my abundance. I had went all in on my business, and so I wanted to develop something that's really sustainable. And I laugh at myself because I work in the realm of like heart intelligence and emotional intelligence, and how I coach my people is I would encourage them to take a more feminine approach. And I was very masculine. I was like, I'm going to hire a bookkeeper. I'm going to get a new accountant. And my friend was like, you should meet Megan. And I jumped into something exactly like this, very similar alchemy codes. And there was just like an instant connection. So first and foremost, this is the best personal development program that I've ever done, especially when it comes to personality testing. I used to be in the corporate team building world for 10 years. So I have done them all. I have done Myers-Briggs, human design, Enneagram, Clifton Strength Finder. By far, numerology is the best, and it's because of its accuracy. There has not been one reading that I have done for somebody who said, like, that makes no sense. That doesn't sound like me at all. It's the exact opposite. It's jaw dropping. People have tears. There's so much confirmation and validation for ourselves first and for others. Before I even implemented it in my business, though, I really infused it in my relationships to understand the most significant relationships. And it was so cool. Like my partner and I have so much similarity in our code. And so whenever we were, ruffling feathers, I could look at our code and realize, well, we both have the arrow of the planner, and I've made all the plans and I haven't included him in any of the plans. And so this isn't going to work. So in order for us to operate, as the cosmic love couple that we are, then we need to make plans together. And so that implementing all of that is what made me go, I need to really go all in on this in my business as well. And I am one of the people that when I said yes to this, committed to making my money back within the time frame of the course, and I did. So Megan gives you the framework within the first 4 weeks, and especially now because I keep going into the courses as well. This amps up your intuition. There's like a quickening that's happening here on earth. You're going to get this way faster than I did a couple of years ago. And I've watched this with so many people. So you get all of this information. And as long as you can just like get out of your own way and start offering readings, you can make your money back quite quickly if that's what you choose to do. So I did, now I'm like hundreds of readings, but I did enough readings within the course to pay it back. And I infused it into all of my offerings. So I'm a soulful business strategist and now certified numerology queen as well. And not only did I infuse it in all of my products and services, but I also charged more. And people, there was no more convincing. It was like people just show up now and they're like, so how do I pay you? How do I give you my money? Like how much is this? There's no, the abundance blocks are not completely removed, but the obstacles are mostly gone. And the best part about it is when I started this business in 2015, it was really rooted in the compass of our heart and our values that we want to embody. And I used to work with people in retreats or workshops or one-to-one, and this would take anywhere from like months to sometimes years. And I hope it's okay to say this. Ainsley is one of those people that we were talking about, like, how do we want to feel? And it would take so much time for us to figure it out. Well, integrating numerology, it's like instantly I know if you have 2 in your energetic code, you want connection, you want partnership. Community is one of your top values. So we don't need to take all of this time to figure out the essence of the intelligence of our heart, which is it is the strongest energy that we have. It's 5,000 times stronger than that of the mind. And so, as Megan says, this helps us collapse timelines. So when people are talking about like, I took a quantum leap, which I don't really love that term, but this is one of those ways. Like, I don't need to take all of this time to figure it out. And so the spiritual entrepreneurs that I work with, we get all those foundational pieces really dialed in so that way they can show up and amplify their own gifts and start to activate their own divine prosperity, because they really do understand the essence of who it is that they are, what they're here to do, and who it is that they're here to serve. Yeah. So if you're contemplating it, just jump. Really. And if you have any other questions, yes, you can ask Megan, but don't hesitate to send me a private message as well, whether I invited you into this group or not. I mean, go to the person who invited you into this group, but I'm happy to answer any questions if there's something else that you're seeking clarity in regards to the course. Yeah.
Thank you. I love this. I love hearing this so much because this is the craziest thing is like, I thank you for mentioning the part about paying off your training. You guys know I'm obsessed with business. You've heard me say it enough at this point, but my goal in all of this is for you guys to feel that sense of empowerment. And for so many of us, that also includes financial empowerment. So growing your business, creating additional income stream, having opportunities to grow, having opportunities to make income in other ways, feeling more empowered with finances and numbers. So I share a business strategy, a business plan. I'm going to talk more about that on Thursday. That walks you through exactly how you can use this to make money if you're starting from nothing, right? If you're starting from, you already have some modalities, incorporating this in with existing modalities is incredibly powerful because it's so practical. Like when you look at someone's chart, it's very clear, it's very grounded. It, like Anne-Marie says, anytime you talk about like values exercises and things like that, that can take time, this can like simplify and clarify. You can also have a better understanding of why your clients may have so-called failed in the past, right? So if someone comes to you and they're like, I've tried X, I've tried Y, none of it's worked for me. Why would your system work for me? This is like where it's so helpful to understand, like, let's look at your code, first of all, and see why those other systems didn't work for you. Let's be straight. This didn't work because you have this influence. And so someone who's asking you to do whatever, it goes against your code. So of course it didn't work. What can we do instead that will get you a similar outcome but that honors your code and works with your energy. And as soon as you start to be able to have conversations like that, the level of trust you have with clients in these discovery calls or these initial consultation conversations, it's so empowering because people are like, you get me. You get me. So you get me now. What's next? Right. So I'm finding for me, in the feedback I'm getting, it's improving things like retention, conversion rates, how long clients stay in your world, the types of referrals you get, the ability for you to go and partner with other leaders because you're viewed as an expert. And I think this is one of the biggest benefits that I've noticed for me is how often I get to be featured in other people's really cool communities where they're like, Megan, come in and like tell us about the numbers on that. I'm like, all right, okay, let's do it. Right. And that allows me to broaden my reach organically, naturally through partnership, through trust. Right. And so really thinking about like for you, what are some of your goals right now? What are some of the challenges you're working through? I know some of you already mentioned you're working on growing your self-trust, working on developing your intuition. If that's the case, and this feels like a modality to grow your intuition, I would love, love, love to support you to do that. For me, it literally brought me from questioning my intuition to having multiple clairs and being a sought after intuitive, which is so cool. That will never get old of saying that people seek me out for my readings. It will never get old. I love it. I take so much delight in that. Um, but Anne-Marie wrote a book. She created a numerology based planner that she's published on Amazon. Jackie's also written a numerology based journal on this. People have created content courses. Farah uses it as a relationship support when she's coaching with people and doing tarot readings with people. There's many different ways. So if you're kind of questioning how this would fit for you in your business, would it make sense? Would it be possible? Like just reach out to me. I'll always be completely straightforward as to where I see the potential, what with your line of work. But yeah, we're starting on March 4th. So if you feel like you'd like to join and be a certified numerologist, I would love to invite you to do so. So fun to get to be the resident numerologist in other people's communities. As a guest expert teacher, you can sometimes be invited in. And then I'm also finding that when I'm joining somebody else's class on anything, and we're talking about stuff in the class, they're like, oh, Megan, you know about numbers. Like, can you speak up about such and such? I'm like, sure. And I've made some amazing connections that way, which has been so much fun. But I think to me, the most rewarding thing is the efficiency of no longer wasting time by doing things out of alignment. And nobody's purposely out of alignment, right? We're not like purposely doing that. But for so many of us, it's like, well, alignment sounds great, but like, how? What does that even mean? What does that even look like? Well, here's how, right? This is what your energy shows you. So making choices that align with that is alignment. Super powerful. Okay. It's 1:00. I cannot stand wasting my time doing things that are not aligned. Absolutely. Such a waste of time. It's 1:00. Our time is basically up. On Thursday, I'm going to talk about strategies where you can use numerology to support your clients. So I'm going to give you a couple of very specific case studies. I'm going to show you exactly how, like Anne-Marie said, if you want to use numerology to make money, how you can pay off your investment within the first month or so of the training, if that's your goal, if that's your desire. She was absolutely 100% right when she said the biggest reason people don't is they get in their own way. Which is inevitable. That's what we do. But also, I will lovingly support you to not do that if that is what you desire. If you want a specific outcome, I will be your girl to keep you on track to that outcome. Every single week, once a week, we have application calls. So those are live conversations with me where once a week we sit down and we apply this stuff. Right? Where I'm like, you tell me this is where I want to use it. All right, let's do it. That's what this looks like. Or this is where I'm stuck. I can't feel this, or I can't understand that, or I'm confused about this. Great. Let's break it down. Or you saying, like, how do I create an offer? How do I do a reading? These are all things that we can talk about on the live calls that we'll have once a week. And the way I've structured the course is you build 4 readings as we go. So by the time I think it's about week 4 or 5, you've got 4 complete readings done, as long as you do your homework and show up to the classes. But I have found that in my, I don't even know, 5 years of teaching this at this point, there's 2 things that determine whether someone is quote unquote successful with this or not. 2 things, and that's it. Number 1, deciding that they want to do it. And let's not underestimate the power of a decision. That is honestly one of the most powerful things you could do with anything in life, deciding. And then number 2, showing up. And what that means is like attend the calls and do your homework. If you attend the calls and do your homework, I guarantee that by the time you're done the course with me, you will be able to read, you will be able to understand, you'll be able to do readings. Like it's not that complicated. We get in our own way and we doubt ourselves. But the healing of doubting ourselves is learning to trust our own process and learn to take action on that and build that relationship. Yay. Thanks, Anne Marie. I thank you for agreeing with that. I think I might have a couple more people who've been in my trainings on the call. I don't know if any of you feel like popping in. I know some of you are here. We didn't discuss this before. I didn't ask you before, but if you want to share, or if anybody has any questions for me, I would love to answer any of your questions. And like I said, tomorrow I'll go into more of some of the strategies that you can use to integrate this into work and integrate this into business if that's calling to your soul, which I secretly hope it is, because the world needs more highly intuitive and people who are sensitive to energy to be in business, because when you're in business, that's how we shift business. Amazing. Okie dokie. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have a quick second, I'd love for you to drop your feedback in the chat, what your takeaway was, what you're taking home from this. I cannot wait to see. If you have not shared your mantra yet, please share it with me. Either DM me or post it in our Facebook group and tag me, or post on your social media and tag me so that I can see and witness you in your power, in that embodiment of your strength and your gift. Just nothing gives me more joy. All right. Thanks, guys. I hope to see you on Thursday's call, noon, and we'll talk about some of the strategies to apply numerology. Mwah. Bye, everyone.